my name is Janet and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we will be talking about getting ready for life after graduation. So, you're about to graduate. Congratulations. I know there's only a few months left in your final year, so hopefully some of these tips will help you out. There's a mixture of those who are probably excited to finally be out of education and some of those who'll still be reminiscent of your uni days. Trust me, it's okay to feel all of those emotions all at once, all at the same time. So I personally graduated in 2020 during the pandemic, and if I had to give myself any advice during my last few months of third year, I think that this would be the video that I'd be looking for. So hopefully you guys can take a few things away from this. P.S. I think this is mostly to do with me speaking from my experience and how I entered the world of media and marketing, but it could also vary depending on the industry that you're in. So I hope you can take a few of these tips wherever you're going or what you want to do with your experience next. So my first and most probably biggest tip of them all right now is to intern and get work experience. I think this has to be my biggest tip because I think in this current industry where getting jobs is so competitive, you really have to find a way to make yourself stand out. And I think it's a really great way to get to the next stage of your career, especially if you're looking to go into a job straight away. So work experience is super valuable in today's competitive industry, and it's a great chance to network and build skills. So whether you take an unpaid internship or volunteer, they are both great ways to build skills, add to your CV and your portfolio. I personally did both in my third year. Yeah, I was burnt out in my third year. I did both of those, but for me, it was a really, really great experience to work on my skills and actually get an experience and a feel for what I liked, what I didn't like. First, I interned at a PR agency for free, so I did about an unpaid internship for about 5 months, and this was even during the first few months of the pandemic, where I managed the social media and marketing side of things, and I also helped set up a podcast. That experience truly helped me along the way, especially getting the jobs that I've had in between with the current one that I have now, and especially my current role as a marketing exec because we are doing a podcast. And if you didn't know, I work for a company called Code First Girls, and we have a podcast called Represent, and we've just set up a studio and it's super awesome. So there you go, there's my Slack going off. And I am very grateful for that experience, and it was not easy because I was juggling both uni work and the society and also interning, and I was also working 20 hours, which I'll get to later on, but I really think that that was a really worth it experience. However, if you can get a paid internship, all the better. I would even totally recommend that even more. I was also the president of the Sussex Filipino Society, and I think a lot of my personal experience and growth came from that. I learned a lot about media and marketing just straight in by doing it, and also helps me gain a lot of leadership experience and helps with my communication skills. And I always go back to the society as an example for when I go into a job interview or when I have to share a fun fact about me and what I've learned. I always go back to that time, and it's always a really great conversational starter and topic. So whether you're in a society or you've yet to enter one, this is your time to kind of go in, have some fun, get some skills, be part of something, and also create an impact, which you could also add into your, which you can also add onto your portfolio, your CV later down the line. I think the earlier you can start getting work experience, the better. So either during third year, the summer before third year, or even straight after graduation if you're switching industries or trying to look for a different role. And it also might be a good tip to start looking for jobs before you graduate, just so you can see what the industries are like. I'm going to silence my Slack. What jobs are out there and also what you might be able to get into. I would recommend looking on LinkedIn and looking at the job descriptions to see what experience and what skills other companies in the industry you're looking for. That can also be a guide as to learning what you need to work on yourself. On to my second tip. My next tip is to earn and save. In my third year, it was really important for me to improve my finances and pay off any student debt that I had, and that was my student overdraft. I was also finally able to recover from paying off my housing, so that was my deposit in my third year, and then any other expenses that I had on my account from second year. I developed some bad habits, but luckily I was able to fix it at the time. I was also working around 20 hours a week, and the job that I was in paid quite well, and I was able to kind of have more savings on the side. So, however, working 20 hours a week, depending on your the job that you're doing or your studies, I probably wouldn't recommend working as many as those hours, especially if you're already interning on the side and doing other stuff. But it is what it is. If you have the motivation, the goals to do it with purpose, but also I think it all pays off at the end of the day. Earn and save. Savings is really important, especially when you're a student. Sometimes you kind of have to live to your means, paycheck to paycheck. But if you can start saving at the beginning of third year, all the better. I At the beginning of third year, I reassessed my finances and I made it a focus to have money move automatically into my savings account at every payday. And I wanted to have like a little pot for graduation. So I wanted that to be saved for whether I was traveling or to treat myself or to kickstart any hobbies that I had. And that obviously changed because of the pandemic. I was on furlough and I wasn't working as much. So my pay went down drastically, but luckily I wasn't really investing in a lot of other payments at the time. And my savings actually was my cushion fund for when I wasn't working for about 2 to 3 months. So that funded my living costs. And then I was able to get some of the expenses back when I started working at the restaurant. But yeah, save and earn, getting into good budgeting habits and money habits is really great at this point. My next tip would be is to upskill. So if you're thinking of moving to a different type of industry that's different to what you studied, for example, you studied history or you studied maybe anthropology, but you wanted to get into marketing or UX design, and there's some skills that you know that you want to work on, this would be the great chance to take on courses to learn new skills. So personally, during the pandemic, I spent a lot of time doing LinkedIn courses and Google courses, which was a great addition to my CV. And I also put my certifications onto onto my LinkedIn, and also a great way to kind of try different classes, like subclasses on the side, to see to get to know them a bit more. So I learned about branding. I learned a bit more about SEO marketing. And although that's my current industry, at the time I didn't know what they were. And that helps me kind of go through jobs and pick out which ones that I knew I could get at that point. And also learn what key areas that I wanted to personally work on moving forward. On to that, this would be the perfect time for you to build out your CV and your LinkedIn profile. It's definitely a trial and error type of process, and it can take some time for many. So this is a great time for you to start padding out your CV, getting to know the industries that you want to work with, what keywords that you need to put in there, and also learning good interview tips. Another like sub tip from that is to use your alumni network and also your tutors. So you can actually go to your tutors and say, hey, I like your research, or I like the industry that you were previously working in. Can we grab a coffee, or can we book a one-to-one? I wanted to ask you a few questions about how I could possibly go down the same path as you. So I think this tip is kind of diverse, like all across the industries and like the classes that you might be able to go into. So whether you're going into, say, journalism or film, or I don't know, computer science, learn from your tutors. They're there for a reason. And also, I guess from that point on as well, think about maybe shadow work opportunities and going to local events, for example, like mixers, mentoring events. Sometimes, like for example, if you're going to the arts, there might be local galleries where they have meetups. And yeah, networking is so key. You don't know who you might meet there, and you don't know what impact they might leave on your life for the future. For sure, there's still people in my networks who I met like several years ago just on a whim, and now either I've worked with them again or they've led me to another person, which has developed onto a project. But I can get into that in another video if you guys like. On to my final tip. My final tip is to really commit to your studies. And I know it's been a long year, and I know that, a lot of you are probably tired, and I really don't want you guys to burn out. I know how that feels, and recovering from burnout is so difficult. But don't let that momentum go and keep at it. It's a really important time to build discipline and start creating healthy habits for yourself if you haven't already. So, eat well, sleep well, and exercise. manage your time with your studies and also balance that with what works well for your mental health so that you can keep going at a steady pace. Making sure that you also get plenty of rest when you can, and also know that the finishing line is super close and you can get even more rest once it's all over and done with. So, give yourself a purpose, give yourself some goals, and make sure you to pace it out and go steady at it, because going steady and going at a good momentum and building that pace is how you can continue doing that for a longer time, rather than trying to pull out all-nighters and trying to do everything everywhere all at once. Is what leads to a burnout, and I don't want you guys to go through that. So yes, healthy habits last. And I guess the last point, really, which isn't really a tip, but it's, I guess, something that we all have to go through at some point, is think about where you want to go next. And it's a big question, and honestly, you don't have to answer it. Sometimes you can just be spontaneous with it and just, figure out what feels good and what works best for you. Do you want to travel, or do you want to go straight into work? Do you want to move somewhere new? Do you want to move back home or stay where you are? Having an idea could be a great way to start getting the paperwork for it or finding a new place kind of already in motion. So I personally stayed in Brighton after I graduated. I could have moved back home, but I was like, okay, my goal after graduation is to kind of continue my growth trajectory. I wanted to learn independence. I wanted to try different jobs. I wanted to see what adult life was like by myself. And that was a really, really great growth type of year for me. And although I used up a lot of my savings, I was in and out of jobs because, it was just a volatile industry and like market at the time. I think that it was a great time for me to really put myself out there, take risks, and learn on my feet. So if I could give you guys any tip that I learned at the time that worked well for me, was feel the fear and do it anyway. And everything is a lesson, and as long as you have a positive mindset and kind of thinking about your growth, anything that you go through, you can grow through. That is super important. But yes, I really hope that this video helps you guys out. If you have any questions or anything else you want to know, please comment them down below. And if you guys want more of these type of videos, I'll be happy to work on them. I'm currently working on some tips for first years and second years, and also anyone who wants to go on placement or work experience. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, if you're in your third year, good luck, and hope to see you guys in a future video.